Meeting to order. Madam Secretary, would you take roll call, please, and determine a quorum?
Yes, Mr. Sloan,
Here.
Mr. Pittock.
Here.
Okay, Mr. Smith is absent at the moment. Ms. Dearden is going to be absent. We do not have a quorum at the moment.
Okay. At this time, we can't ask for approval of minutes, as we do not have a quorum. So
Correct.
we move on to the Treasury report. I think if everybody takes a look at what we've got, I don't know if nothing's changed, I guess. I know we had a presentation by our treasurer, which was very informative last meeting, and I think we have some interests in doing some different things with it, but maybe DB can tell us about that at some point. But I don't think there's anything that's stands out to me on the treasurer report. I see them looking at Hall Creek as well in advance of their payments.
I didn't know if you wanted to wait for DB to get here and then we go over the treasurer report because you have a few items you want to touch on.
Okay,
Whatever you're comfortable with.
I'm comfortable with anything. I mean,
And we just start with the scheduled matters.
okay, well then let's move
Just a
on. We'll
suggestion.
table that and go to the schedule matters.
I suggest you offer this as the time, you know,
I'm sorry.
the-
Any citizen that would like to speak up? And if not, we'll close that. Yeah, schedule matters, go ahead.
Sure, we can, actually, there's a few items on here that we're gonna sort of tag team back and forth, sort of integrate a little bit more on our processes here. But I got the first item, with a staff update. I apologize, Mr. Sloan, were you here when Sarah was introduced at the last meeting?
Unfortunately, it was.
Okay, well, we'll start, give a quick backstory here. So with Matt Ryan leaving, and if you recall, we had a conversation about taking his position and splitting into two economic development coordinator positions. One focused more on new business, one focused more on existing businesses. So we had both of those positions on the street. We went through a lot of interviews. We had a lot of great applicants. So we were very happy to have such a great pool of people apply for these positions. Sarah actually has been with the county for 13 years and knows community development and public utilities, and has actually been touched on economic development numerous times in her tenure here in Buchan County. But she applied for the existing business-focused ED coordinator position and got it. So we're very proud to give her this opportunity and big promotion for her. The only bad thing that came out of it was we had to put her position on the street and try and backfill those huge shoes that she filled for us. And actually, we just filled that position with actually Parker, who works in our permitting center. That's great news. That just happened December 1st. So she got a really nice promotion for her and her family. She's awesome. Again, bad news comes out of that. We got to put her position on the street. So, good problems to have. I guess.
Yeah, great, good.
But
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to have you.
so she stopped in head first.
We have on and off. I worked in community development, so I was a planning commission clerk and all that good stuff in there. It's probably where you've seen me mostly.
Yes, and I'm terrible with names and faces and apologies. Pictures on all and other activities. One of the roles of these new positions is they're going to serve as levels of ombudsmen for people to work through the community development processes. No one knows it better than Sarah. I mean, she overseeing the permit process from start to CO and knows all the processes in between, all the zoning processes, those kinds of things. So I think she's going to be able to bring a practical part to the process to help applicants. Even though her focus is going to be existing business, we're cross-training both positions. So I think it's going to be a really nice add that we'll be able to provide support to our customers there. So I think those existing skills are going to translate very well.
She hopped in head first. Sarah's made a lot of great contacts. Now, the later item is the BEDP. But she's had a lot of great contacts with BEDP. We're building up a great relationship there. And the Chamber, another great item. Actually, Sarah just got back from the Chamber of Commerce meeting today. I was unable to make this first one. I had to miss, but we had a utilities budget presentation we had to do. But so we're able to go to that, and just all kinds of good relationships that we're building. So. Which leads me to the other position, the economic ED coordinator position, focused on new business. In all those interviews and rounds of interviews and resumes that came in, we are happy to state that we offered the position to Casey Verber. She is actually in North Carolina, and her husband works from home, so they can basically move anywhere. So she's going to be moving to the Richmond area. She's going to start January 2nd.
She works for a county in North Carolina?
She does, yeah. She's with Fuquay-Varina, I believe is where she's at right now. I think it's Fuquay-Varina, yeah. So, but she's been in economic development for a number of years, as either a coordinator, a street planner, or even, I think she was even a director for a brief period of time as well. So
Great.
she's going to bring a lot of great knowledge. But there's going to be a transitional period there as she moves to a whole different state, different rules, different regulations. So we're just happy to have her come up here and get started. So she's a really good person.
Fantastic. When do you think she'll come?
So her first day is going to be January 2nd. So in the
Okay.
January meeting, you'll see it.
Fantastic.
We'll have her here for you guys to meet.
Good.
What that does is, with these two positions filled now, talk about space, where they can go.
Right.
So we did have Matt Ryan's office, and we had contemplated
Mhm.
just sort of positioning the desks in there for a brief period of time. Mr. Smith, how are we doing, sir?
Hey, DB. Good.
We were just going over the staffing update under scheduled matters. We just hired somebody that's Sarah's counterpart.
Lucky you.
Her name's Casey Verber, and she's in North Carolina right now. She's going to be moving up here to the Virginia area, which is awesome. We're happy to have her. She's going to start January 2nd. So at your January meeting, you'll get to meet her. So we talked about putting both positions in Matt Ryan's office temporarily as we rehab the building that we mentioned at the last meeting down the road, for the ED to be in conjunction with the Chamber of Commerce. But in that time period, we're actually going to put Sarah and Casey in the Commissioner of Revenue's old office, which is at the other end of the hall. So opposite end of the hall is community development, but that's where their temporary location will be. The next item is strategic plan update. So Sarah, I don't know if you,
Sure.
do you need this?
Nope. We're just gonna open it. Now, this is a draft, but we just wanted you guys to see that we are working on this lovely thing. So what I've done,
With all of our spare time. With all
yeah,
Sarah's spare time.
between training and so what I did is I went through a whole stack of paper. So I read through the existing strategic plan and went through, I know you guys had a work session with the Board of Supervisors and you did a SWOT analysis, and so I tried to pull out all sorts of things that I saw, and
Can you expand that a little bit?
yeah, see if we can make that bigger.
Down the far right-hand corner, you can see the plus, minus.
Yeah.
That's better. Thank you.
Basically I have 3 goals, and like I said, this is all draft.
Mhm.
I'm not even sure if this-
I
And so this is, so I don't want you to get hung up on what the actual text is,
Mhm.
or whether it's a goal or an objective or a strategy. Basically, I just want you to know that we are working on it.
Mhm.
We've gone through all these documents and we've kind of narrowed down it to see what could be some goals. So one could be stimulate investment to the county to build the county's tax base. And then we have objectives. And then as we fill these out, who's in charge of it, what the key indicator will be, what the current measurement is, what our target would be, and whether we're meeting it, whether we're not really going to meet it, or whether we are just not going to meet it at all.
Mhm.
So we still have a lot of work to do, but, and like I said, some of these strategies might actually belong as objectives. Some of these objectives might actually belong as goals. And so we've got some of that to do, but we've got it organized in a way that I think is a little bit more understandable when we get down to it. So this would be goal number 2, expand and support Goochland's existing business foundation, and then enhance tourism is the 3rd goal. But like I said, they're
Sir, if I can build
Just
on
started.
this
Yes.
just a little bit. What this effort was intending to do was just comprehensively go back to the existing strategic plan what was done. Some things were done, so we didn't want to necessarily repeat them, but they were never revisited. So a lot of what we're going to have to do is either sustain or enhance some work product that may have been done in the past. We also wanted the effort to go back, as Sarah said, to the retreat. We wanted to make sure we captured everything that was discussed in that retreat and ultimately carried over to a plan. We probably have about 2 more months of work to really build this out, and then we come back to you and the board, confirm that it's all going to be based on what you talked about. Existing business support, new business recruitment, and tourism, the foundations of the school that we talked about at that retreat. These are going to be different indicators and projects that will have strategies associated with them. Some will be done on the county side, some will be involved in the economic development side with clear ownership pieces. Who owns what piece and how do we know we were successful in that component? This will be a multi-year plan at the end of the day. So there'll be certain things that we're going to try to target in the next 12 months, 24 months, 36 months kind of thing, with some real clear ownership pieces that at the end of the day, you as an EDA will be asked to adopt and take ownership of, and the board of supervisors will be as well as your collective economic development strategic plan. So while we're doing some of the coordination work and collation, if you will, it still has to be blessed by you. We want to make sure it's reflective of what you took out of those retreat discussions. There are some things as we start to establish as staff we're seeing that may also feed into this. There were some things that we need to enhance that we may have done well when we established the Economic Development Department, but you've heard them mention VDP. There were some things that we took for granted that VDP had and was representing on our behalf that we were finding out that they did not. They didn't have all of our properties inventoried properly. They had West Creek as one lump sum property, but they didn't necessarily have any detail on. There's a lot of pieces that I have learned since Matthew has left that we need to do a better job in making sure they're getting marketed on our behalf. There were projects that we may not have been included in the mix on because we didn't have put into systems at VDP properly, and we're already catching that and getting some of that corrected. But that's work product that we got to play some catch up on, to be honest with you. We met with some of the property owners and developers in those areas that have to be partners in this. And so, for instance, if we end up marketing key components of West Creek for different market sectors, this is a medical market sector, or this is light industrial market sector. What is our marketing strategy and plan? Some of that is going to be what can the county do to assist, and how can we leverage our relationship with EDP? But what's the developer going to do in tandem with us? They're already saying that they're willing to help increase their marketing efforts and make additional investments in it. So it's not always going to be the county or asking the EDA to pick up the dime on it. What are we doing in partnership, maybe with some developers, to further some of these goals? So we got to build out that picture for you. What I've had concerns in, we started this literally the last week Matthew was on the job. He resigned, I think, the day after the retreat last time. And so we lost a little bit of traction again. And so this initial effort is to make sure we're not losing anything, and then we're going to build it out and bring it back. And so there's a lot of work to be done here, but I want you to know at the end of the day, it's not the staff going to be telling the EDA or the board of supervisors what to do. We may recommend some things. It's ultimately you guys adopting this larger framework and us trying to figure out how we're going to tackle it together to accomplish the success of what we both all want to achieve. So a lot more work to go here, but please know that this is going to be your plan and the county's collective plan at the end of the day, not the staff's plan. You may direct us on what to do, but it really has to be owned by you guys.
Thank you. Next item is mine. We actually, Sarah and I had a great opportunity of going to the BEDP and giving a presentation. I think it went over very well from our perspective, because when I looked at a lot of the employees at BEDP, a lot of them looked younger, 20-somethings, and they just weren't as versed in who Goochland was. Some of the people who had been there for a number of years did know that they knew a little more about Goochland.
Where is BBEP and what is it?
It's the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, and it's downtown.
It's for the whole
Downtown
state.
Richmond. For the whole state. Yeah. So any of the Facebook deals or Amazon deals, and a lot of that stems through them because they're basically sort of a direct line from the governor.
Got it.
If you want to look at it that way.
Okay.
They speak a lot with him and what he wants to do and what his goals are for the state and growth and where they want to see that growth. What they can do for us is on their site, and this was very interesting. I'm going on a tangent here, so just bear with me. Their website, they internally use. So let's just say somebody from California with a big business calls DEDP and says, I want to move my business to the Richmond region. And then they give certain criteria. I'm looking for this square feet. I'm looking for this acreage. I'm looking for public water and sewer, gas, electricity, all the different criteria. And somebody at DEDP, they're typing in and going through their database, and it's going to spit out the 10 places in the Richmond region that fit that criteria. Well, we didn't have that great of a criteria, to be honest, in their system when they look it up. When they look up, they're really just seeing West Creek as like a project, but there's so much more to the east end of the county. There's so much more that we can market on the east end of the county. So when they basically told us that, we said, well, we can do better than that. So now we've started to build a great relationship with them on this sort of back and forth and trying to get that website that they have so much better and that build up the information that they have in the database. So it's a great partnership, and there's a lot more to come on that front.
Fantastic.
But to, I guess, sort of build the relationship, Sarah and I went, I'm not going to go through this whole presentation, but really we went and just gave a presentation to them. One of the first things we showed them was the video that we showed you at the last meeting back in October, which stems from the bond rating, which Mr. Badesky will talk to. It's item number 5. But we showed them the video just to give them that overview of who we are and what we have. And a lot of them were just sitting there. They looked like their eyes were so wide because they had no idea who we were and what we have to offer, and what West Creek is, and what the Tucker Creek Service District is, and all these other, and we have the lowest taxes in the region. Even if you put the ad valorem tax on top of the regular tax, we're still not the lowest in the region, but we're very competitive on that front. So it's very good information for them to have when businesses are calling. They have that information. Yes.
Can I ask why we were never in front of that program in the first place?
I think we were.
I don't want to judge past. I mean, we could start. No.
I think we did a full court press when Matthew was initially hired, and so there was information put into a database back in 11-12 time frame and not updated. And Matthew's time was spent with focusing on new business prospects, and we didn't sustain those relationships as strongly as we could have. I think our new structure allows us to have a little bit more focus and deliberateness to these relationships than we were in the past. BDP is only as good as a representative on their behalf as we can help them appreciate who we are. And I think there might have been a push at one time, and then it went stale. I will tell you, I've been working with BDP in Virginia for about 15 years. They have changed about 80% of their personnel in that 15-year period of time. Governor's administrations have changed, and that has shifted some of the personnel. They've gone to 4 or 5 directors. And so if you're waiting on them to show up here to ask you about what they can do for you, you're losing out. You got to be proactive, and I think we were able to pick up on that and figure out where we were able to plug in. What they actually went to is they do quarterly meetings for their staff to try to educate. To our knowledge, none of the staff that were in that room ever saw the original one, and they've been there for a number of years. So it's good that we're, being a little more proactive on this, but it's something that we can't stop now. We got to keep on going.
Excellent. Thanks.
I think you're exactly right. Because the head turnover. In my experience in the state, there's always turnover in the state. So you got to keep renewing the relationships. That's right. So,
would it be possible to distribute this at some point, just so?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep, we can definitely put that out. I took out slide number, it was technically slide number 3, which was the actual video, I know I took that out just to bring the file size down, because it was almost a full gigabyte of information. You take,
Is that on the website? The
the,
video?
the video is, but not this, not the presentation. Yeah, the website, I think it's on YouTube, is it on Vimeo?
It's on YouTube, Vimeo, the county's website, county Facebook, so you can get to it.
Really good.
Excellent.
It's an updated version. If you recall, the one that was done, I guess it was only 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. We updated that when we went to the new bond rating presentation. It's about 8 minutes, just over 8 minutes long. I don't know, even though I've lived and breathed it with Paul and the staff who were building it, still when you watch it, it's pretty proud of the county.
I say the first one was just a knockout.
Yeah.
It showed it Capital One.
You know, I'd like to think we, just enhanced the first one. It was amazing to me how much changed from the time the first one was done until the time we created this video. I was really worried that we lost the quaintness of the first video. And I hope we were as true to that as we could, but this is, in fairness, it's really a video designed to help people that don't know anything about Goochland learn about Goochland. Some folks in Goochland have said, I love it, I'm so proud of the county, glad to see it. Others have said, boy, it's scary because now I actually see some of the development that's going on. But when you're going to be here, something like that, it's sad to say, but people that even live in Richmond think Goochland's still miles away. The video does still help even in the region.
And just to paint a little better picture of DEP when Sarah and I were there, it was a room probably 3 times longer than this one, with a massive table in the middle, and I'd say 30 people at least from all different departments in their office. So it wasn't just sitting down with 2 people. I mean, we had their whole team there. They sent out an email to everyone saying, Goochland County's here to give a presentation. So it was really, really good for us. Yeah. And as Mr. Badesky said, we wanted to make sure they understood that we're not from 288 West.
Right.
We do have land on the east side of 288. And we also wanted to call out some of the projects, and I won't go through all these, I'm just going to touch briefly. But we want to say, hey, if you've seen the Audi dealership on Broad Street, some of them nodded their heads. We said, that's Goochland. They were like, oh, I didn't know. I thought that was Short Park.
Place.
Madarva, they're all thinking this is Henrico's development. And we wanted them to know, no, that's us, and this is what we're doing in the area. But anyway, we can, if you would like, Mr. Sloan, we can get a PDF to everyone of the presentation so that lower the file size, and then at the next meeting we'll have printouts if you want a hard copy as well. If that's whatever works best for you.
PDF.
PDF?
I got my speed.
Okay, I'll just email it to you. But yeah, the rest of the presentation really goes through sort of what's taxes, what we're seeing, more growth. It actually has a map from our planning department's website. It's obviously really tiny on here, you can't see it. But what it does is all these little call-outs, these green and blue call-outs show all the developments that the county could see. And there's a little chart here, again, on the website, it's much more clear, that shows all the housing units that are approved zoning-wise that could be built in the county. I think it's a little over 3,000 houses. So, but yeah, they were just, it's a lot of education.
Yeah, good. Do they schedule other counties at the same time, or is it just one county per? So you had their whole attention just for Goochland. Got it.
And there was an individual, Andrew Larson, who was there. I think it was just a day or 2 after we were there. He emailed us and came in to get even more detailed information, which is, so again, it's all about building that relationship.
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Any other questions on that? I'll move to Sarah.
So this is more of just a educational piece of what VDEP offers. I went to a meeting last Tuesday with them up in Charlottesville, and they gave this presentation, and I thought it was just helpful. Obviously, what drives job growth. So what I just want to speak on real quickly is suitable sites and buildings. Of course, talent, pipeline, supportive business climate, and attractive quality of life. But suitable sites and building is important when these larger companies are looking, they kind of go, oh, I want to be in this area.
Mhm.
And then they just go, and then narrows and narrows and narrows. So I thought this was an interesting graphic. They talk about, there's different tiers of land that when companies are looking for, and Goochland's got a lot of raw land, right? But the estimated chance of winning a bid with raw land is they estimated it's zero. Like you're just, it's difficult. But you get up to these 4 or 5 infrastructure in place within 12 to 18 months or shovel-ready sites, you're getting at like 70% more than that. And they offer a program called a business-ready site program, and they'll get certified. This has a little bit more information on what those tiers really mean. For instance, I'd say that West Creek is probably already at a 4. The thing is it requires landowner buy-in to get business site certified. So this would be something that Casey would be doing when she comes on, and is to contact landowners to see if they are interested, because it does require some buy-in from them. But you can get grants through the EDP if you have 100 acres or more to get characterized, and then you can get grants to up your tier too. So once you're characterized, if you want to up it, say I want to put in some infrastructure, you can go through a whole grant process and get money to do that to up your tier. And it's important to have these sites and to have them in the BEDP system, because as Tom mentioned before, and Mr. Badesky mentioned, when they're looking and they're doing their data, they're looking at the entire state, and you get knocked out like immediately if you're not business ready or shovel ready, and they just, so if we can get more properties involved and interested in doing this type of thing, it will up our presence in the area. So I don't know if you guys have ideas or people or anything like that, but this is something that we're going to be moving towards. So if you hear rumblings in the community that we're talking to people about this kind of program moving forward over the next year or so,
This is one of the ones when we're evaluating the strategic plan that we may come back to you and say, look, we want to try to set a goal of getting X% of property designated so we can increase the likeliness. That doesn't mean that we're picking up all that tab. We've already talked to Pruitt's, and they're on board with doing this and picking up some of that tab. And so they're not suggesting the county or the EDA pick it all up, because there's mutual benefit as they gain, we gain, and vice versa. But as of right now, we have 0 designated properties in their system, and so we have some work to do here. And this is something we can do in reasonable time, especially as Sarah said, we got property buyer under buy-in. I don't know if even they realize how little West Creek is marketed statewide right now. And so we may have missed out on some opportunities in the past. Everything we're doing as we move forward to try to hit those goals, we'll be trying to set ourselves up for success, and this is one of those programs.
Was this at the VEDP presentation, the VDA?
this was at the VITA program on Tuesday.
Oh,
So-
this was not, you said Charlottesville,
Yes.
the VEDA?
So
Okay.
VEDA had their, I guess it's winter meeting in Charlottesville on Wednesday. I attended the Tuesday session. I couldn't make the Wednesday session. This was part of the Tuesday session.
Just so the acronym, VITA
Yeah.
is the Professional Economic Development People Association. Virginia Economic Development Partnership is the state office. So
And a
two
quick,
different entities.
yeah, quick question for me. We're not, the county is not a member of VEDA, correct? Or is it de facto already?
No, I think we
I am a member.
joined now. We weren't prior.
Okay.
I don't believe we were.
But
I can tell you, I didn't sign off on any conferences for Matt to go to in my tenure prior. So,
But don't you actually sign up as a member organization, or is that, did I misread it? Or can you just,
I know on VITA, you could, any one of the Economic Development Authority members can sign up on your own and become a member of that association. And so I don't, they may offer organization-wide memberships. Like I know my professional organization does, when we pay based on the population of the county. I'm not as familiar with this one. You just signed up, right?
Yeah, I signed up just as economic development coordinator for Goochland County. They didn't ask me for any type of.
But this is all
locality
distinct from the
membership.
Economic Development Council or the Regional Council.
The IEDC, the International Economic Development Council, that one, you're only allowed to have one person per our population.
I just don't want to get confused with the council that the larger jurisdictions pay a lot of money to join.
Yeah.
Right,
And we
the
never
GRP.
joined because we
Yeah.
didn't have money. So there's that.
Greater
And
Richmond
then
Partnership.
EDP is a state agency essentially.
Yes.
The former Department of Economic Development. And then there's a membership group or an association associated with that. Like that.
There's a statewide association called VEDA, Virginia Economic Development Association.
Right.
But they're not part of the EDP.
Right.
It appears they're funded from different, member entities like Dominion Power, Williams Falls, that's what appears to be, I don't know if that's supposed to be, that doesn't appear to be telling what
You know, I would do the same, some of the trainings that Sarah has over the years, but, I think they're primarily membership dues driven, now, like some of those agencies and there's a, like Timmons and other, those kinds of groups, financial advisor groups will give annual contributions, but I don't think they really take ownership of the membership. They nominate a president from within, and a board from within its membership. And I think it's all primarily dues driven.
Okay. Do you like a PDF of this as well? So,
I think that, actually, if it's handy, I was gonna say, I thought it was on the website, it may not be, because I noticed it was Timmons. And that, they probably would put that up there. I saw one of the presentations.
Moody's bond rating?
Yes, this is me. Well, you know, the video was done in conjunction with an effort. Myself, Barbara Horlack, our finance director, and Mr. Peterson from the board went back to New York to meet with bond rating agencies. You may know that we've already had a AAA from S&P that we had earned almost 4 years ago now. That bond rating has served us well and is a good representation of our finances. In the bond world, there are primarily 3 primary bond rating agencies. Fitch and Moody's are the other 2. We went to New York and met again with S&P. Primarily, we didn't need to reaffirm because we're not going out and borrowing money right now, but we met with S&P because we were in New York and it was the appropriate thing to do just to give them an update of where things are. We're actually in a collective stronger financial position today than we were when they got the, so S&P was extremely pleased with where we are, and we also met with Moody's while we were up there. I will tell you, jurisdictions under 100,000, getting a AAA bond rating there's very few that even happen. Just to give you a little perspective, there's only 130 counties with a bond rating agency in the nation. Richmond is blessed to have a number of AAA bond rating agencies, Hanover, Henrico, Chesterfield. City of Richmond has 2 AAAs, plus a AA plus. We had 1 AAA. We were honored and recognized by Moody's with an additional AAA while we were up there. But they told us we got back to guys. And so it took, while we got to be the sort of the face of the county in New York for that trip, it took a substantial amount of work across departments and entities to help us be positioned to do that. We are now the smallest county per population in the nation to have a Moody's triple and collectively 2 AAAs. And so it's something that we should be collectively proud of. And what's it mean at the end of the day? Well, fundamentally, if and when we go borrow money, we should be able to borrow at a substantially, 1 to 1.5 basis points difference in borrowing. I mean, that's real money on large borrowings. but I think it also should, and with larger business prospects in particular, it shows that we are in a sound footing financially. They're not moving to a county that the finances are in question, that we're overburdened with debt that we couldn't handle, and is a representation, hopefully, of the community that they're going to make investments in. And so from an economic development perspective, I think it is another win for us and a feather in our cap as we go out and promote the county. Over time, we will aspire to get all 3 triples. And I think that is going to be a goal of ours. It would be a pretty major feat if we were able to accomplish it, but I think within the next couple of years, we're going to go back and try to achieve that. Excellent. So I'm proud of what the team put together. Mr. Peterson represented the board extremely well on that team. Sometimes other counties don't bring board members with them because sometimes they don't get it and understand the process. Mr. Peterson gets it. And yeah, he actually was able to look out the window of, we were in one of the Trump Tower buildings off of Wall Street, out to the trading floor that he worked on for years into that window. So that's pretty cool to hear his stories about that.
Is there any opportunities for refinancing any of that as a result of the second triple?
We have very little debt today, other than in the Tuckahoe Creek Service District, which was refinanced in 2013. So we have some school debt that's rolling off. County, we just took on a year and a half, 2 years ago, about $10 million of debt for emergency communications. Our real issue is the planned borrowings that we have coming up. And we have, just under $30 million on the county side for a new courthouse and new fire station within our 5-year plan, and mid-20s for a new school project. And so that's when it will really pay off for us, is on those initial borrowings. We just don't have a lot of debt currently to pay off, and quite honestly, that serves us well when you're up there asking for bond rating. Debt per capita, we're one of the lowest in the nation. And so, while we probably would never, if you just think about our tax rate, the next closest county on our general property tax rate is almost 20 cents higher. They look at that as your capacity to raise. You may never do it, but they know you could raise your tax rate 20% and still be lower than the next closest county.
Is it done in the TCSD? Is that coming per capita?
That's a great question, because some of the bond rating agencies count it against you, some don't. Moody's did count it against us and still found favorable to give us a AAA. We were trying to make an argument that, and I know Lisa's reminding me we have to get here at 6:30. And thank you. I'm glad to tell you all that story.
I appreciate that.
But something that we should be proud of and helps all of our efforts.
Thank you. Website updates?
I just want to let you guys know that it's been updated. So it's got all new contact information. I've started doing a business spotlight. So at the bottom of the webpage, I've been tracking like BizSense and Virginia Business, and whenever they mention Goochland, I'm trying to get it up there as soon as possible. So, oh yeah, all the statistical information has been updated. So
There's some older schools data on there.
Yeah.
That grabbed all the latest, greatest information and populated on the website. So if anybody goes to the EDA or the EDA website, they'll go ahead and see all that too.
Good, thank you. Annual EDA presentation to GLE.
Yeah, we received our annual request from the GLE for the presentation there. Open for discussion as to who might do that, or
Matt handled that the last time, I believe.
actually,
Or did you go with?
throughout, since they've been asking, I've been there, and it's been a variety of other individuals. Matt has been there. Also at the same meeting, typically the chamber's there because they discuss their aspects relative to county. the GM?
Yes, I was part
So,
of
so
it, yes,
you remember
I do, yes,
that
absolutely,
whole session on
Right.
economic development?
yes.
In the last 4 years, I believe I was on and off chairman and at least board member, Peterson also.
Okay.
And that's hence one of the reasons about interest on some of the presentation you made to GEPP or VEP.
So we can, table this till January meeting? This is a February date, or,
So desired, yes. Absolutely.
well, since we don't have a couple members here, or at least Lisa, and I don't know about the other position.
At this point, I know the board knows there's a vacancy that they need to fill. We've had some residents in the community express some interest. I don't know if the board's going to consider them or if they have others candidates in mind. At the end of the day, just know that we're here to update whatever presentation and have a tool for you to make that presentation. So we'll assist you in any way we can.
At the same time, I'm assuming you, your counterpart, will be part of that. Did you receive?
I didn't from the GLE, but I was aware through the chamber that we were on for February 13th, so it's on my calendar.
Well, there we go. Okay, well, thank you. Nominations committee. Appoint 2019 officers, chair, vice chair, and treasurer, secretary. So there's only 3 of us.
And we can't take all the positions.
Right? So I guess we're the nominating committee.
Oh, the 3 of us.
Right?
We meeting now? or-
No. We have to meet, but we have to decide.
Usually they pick 2 people, and then those people meet and decide who their officers are for 2019.
We had 3 last time. I think it was.
But you only have 4 members.
Correct, okay. Okay, so when do we have to do this? Before the next meeting?
You don't have to do it this month, you can do it next month. I've sent you a draft calendar of your meetings for you to think about, because you all wanted to meet every month.
Right.
You
And I
can
talked
do
about
this
that,
in January.
talked about that with Mr. Budesky, and he says that we think we have the workload necessary for that, but we may want to reconsider that mid-year next year.
Well, I what I said was, most of the EDAs I'm familiar with meet every other month.
Right.
One of the things that I know have been a concern, and we've delayed the implementation of the strategic plan, you guys want to get your arms around that. I do feel once the strategic plan is moving, there are other roles for the EDA to play outside of the monthly meeting, which I think at that point, there may be some logic in going to every other month, because we're going to ask for your time to engage on
Other
project level stuff, and it may demand more of your time. And so that might be better in the off month of an EDA meeting and meeting as a full EDA the other month. But until that structure makes sense to everybody and you've agreed to that and understand what it means, we're changing a little bit of the culture of how we do work. There's going to be a lot more collective work product that we're going to ask for your engagement on, and where your individual skill sets align and those kinds of things that we haven't done as much of historically. And that's going to range for anything from business visits to engaging in some prospecting kinds of things, different work. We talked about the business center work. At some point, we're going to have to build a business plan around the business center. There's other areas that I think the EDA is going to have an opportunity to engage in, other than just actions of a meeting, to really further our collective work. So,
Thank you.
but until you understand, I can tell you that, but until you really see what that means, I think that's when it'll realize that there's your time can be valued in other ways too.
Thank you. So, the nominations committee, should we table it till January? Okay, we'll do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can I suggest, one of your options is you can, and I'm trying, who was the most recent past chair? So,
Before Lisa,
It was,
Rick Hall.
yeah, Rick.
sometimes people just say, with that, go to current chair and the most recent past chair, go and bring us back some nominations, but that won't work.
Right.
And so, once you're here as a quorum, you don't necessarily have to go in and meet as a nominations committee. You can talk amongst yourself and work that out. So, whatever you're comfortable with.
Well, I'd like to have Lisa here as a part of that, to make sure,
Oh.
that's my feeling.
Get an argument for postponement.
Yes, and I think that's what I would rather do. Okay, great. Okay, so that's completes that for schedule matters. Mr. Treasurer, since you weren't here earlier, is there anything that you need to add to?
Yeah, I did have three things tonight after looking at the finances. I think one off the list when I saw this latest report, because we were in the package, one deposit or one payment from Licking All Creek was missing. So when you add in that second Licking All Creek, it takes the balance on the financial report and the package up to the balance that we received from Wells Fargo. So that balances. I had two questions, and I really don't know, because I may be reading this wrong, or I may just be wrong. But if we have a Wells Fargo balance close to $500,000, and we're picking up $12 in dividends or interest payment. And back to Mr. Chairman, your question from a while ago, are we getting anything for our money at all on these deposits? And if we're locked into the Wells Fargo or something like that, shouldn't we be putting more money into the CDs, because we've not been approving any expenditures over the last several months, but the CDs are paying somewhere. We're paying a lot more than.
Look to the column next to the CDs themselves.
Yeah.
On the first page.
I hear.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, here, yes, thank
1.39.
you, thank you. 1.39 or 2.15, those are long-term maturities, but it's ridiculous. I think we had something like $24 and, let's see, $31 so far this year in interest on $480-some thousand.
Yeah.
I think we're missing out.
Right.
And I know I appreciated Ms. Johnson's presentation to us last meeting, but I really didn't get a clear idea of what other option there might be for us. And I would like to maybe ask Mr. Besky, maybe the finance department, can give us an idea of what our other options may be. Again, if I'm reading the financial statement correctly, I may be missing something, but it seems like it's really, really low. We should be getting a better return on that.
I think you're right personally. I mean, we've just kind of turned these CDs over and over through the years that I've been here. And I wish we would make a little bit better return on our investment.
And I apologize, I missed Ms. Johnson's report.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the treasurer's office is the banker for the county. So they make the fundamental investment decisions,
Right.
even on the county's funds. However, most of the funds that we have as a county, especially the ones that we need any kind of reasonable liquidity on,
Yeah.
we put into the LGIP, and it's definitely getting over 2 right now.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure what she shared with you.
She shared it with LPIP, but
She did.
That's what she was talking
Was she
about.
open to moving those funds?
She said we could do, yeah, whatever we want.
She did, she was.
Yeah.
So,
It's in the minutes.
okay.
Estimates.
Definitely, that at a minimum, take her up on that option, because we can, if there was something urgent, you can pull out of it.
Okay. How would we proceed then? Should I write Ms. Johnson a letter or something and asking that she take over the
The investment?
yeah, the balance basically? I mean, I know we have to have a checking account for some reason, but even, I remember the Virginia Credit Union, we get better rates on checking than this.
Right.
And so, I think we probably got too much in short-term cash.
Yep.
Probably should put some more in long-term cash. And I think that even in the short term that we leave there, we're not getting a competitive rate on it. So I'm just asking for advice on how we might affect the discussion.
Can I suggest, and you guys were part of that discussion, I wasn't, but we're glad to follow up with her and do that. If the chairman's comfortable taking a motion to authorize that action, we can go to the treasurer and have those conversations.
Okay.
And report back to you in January. I don't think there's anything that prohibits her from doing that, Lisa, is that?
No, when she spoke with them and she talked with them about the different options and recommended that, and they kind of have to, she also suggested some amounts, different amounts, so.
So we should schedule a meeting with her.
Well, I mean, if you make the motion, you can.
I think we can assist you in that action. I think she's just basically gonna, tell me what you want, and she'll do it on your behalf, and then we'll facilitate the transaction.
See, I think that's what we need, in my opinion, Mr. Chairman. We talked, the last time she said, all these options are available.
Right.
But we don't, I didn't hear the mechanism.
Right,
You
the
know,
process.
and then, we said at the end of the meeting, I would like basically a plan, if I could answer that, and how do we, get more of this, money?
So I make a motion,
Well, may I suggest she said to contact Stacy Piercy and 786-1156 provide information, and she talked about
yeah, I see it, you're right.
open up an account, minimum deposit $1,000. And correct me if I'm wrong, that is a fairly liquid account. I saw that up here. It's only an EM that is not needed maturity. So I would guess just by contacting her.
Why don't we do that? I mean, it is in the minutes that she invited us to call her, so how about you give her a call?
Yeah, you get that number.
I get it in here,
It's right in your minutes.
786,
1156.
it's in your minutes from last meeting.
Stacy Pierce, Piercy.
And she's the LGIP client analyst.
I'll give Ms. Piercy a call. And I apologize for that, since our last meeting, I've been out of the country, so I'm basically.
I understand, that's okay.
Big, so I haven't been able to do too much, but I will follow up on it.
Great, and let's follow up on it next meeting?
Okay, we'll do.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And you're gonna approve the minutes. Did you say an approval of the minutes?
A motion to approve the minutes? I approve,
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
thank you.
I'm going to abstain from the vote. We don't take a vote because I
Okay.
wasn't in
So you're
attendance.
moving.
I'm
you're
second.
And you're gonna abstain from the vote.
I'm going to abstain from the vote because I wasn't present
Okay.
at the meeting.
Thank you. Bills to be paid?
No,
Thank you. Other business?
We just have a brief closed session.
I know that, I just had one question. A couple months ago, we talked about engaging in conversations with other counties about how their EDAs function and so forth, and I don't know where we ever got with that, or kind of stalled,
Not
or,
as far as we wanted to. We've been trying to get staffed up. As soon as we do that, we're gonna hit the gears on that and get moving there.
fine, thank you.
Hopefully February will be
Bring it
through some of
We
that.
added, I think, 1 or 2 more questions to it since then.
Yeah,
So we've had some progress on it, but the next time we'll.
Fantastic.
Consider, so.
good,
Good
okay,
question, thank you.
thank you. So, in a motion for authority action requested to convene a closed meeting. In accordance with the provisions of sections 2.2 to 3711 and 2.2 3712 of the Code of Virginia, I move that the Goochland County Economic Development Authority convene in closed meeting for the purpose of discussing a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community as permitted by section 2.2 3711A5 of the Code of Virginia.
Second.
Okay, close the door.